CBS17's Russ Bowen is here now. And Russ, you sat down with Shelane. I hope I said her name right.
Shelane Etchison. Yes. So Representative Hudson was already facing Democrat Nigel Bristow in November. Hudson is the heavy favorite in a heavily Republican district, but now there is third candidate Shelane Etchison, who gathered enough signatures to run as an independent. She told me unaffiliated candidates are what many voters are just longing for. You made history recently by becoming the first unaffiliated or independent person on a ballot in North Carolina to run for Congress. How did you manage to pull that off, first of all?
Thank you, Russ. Yes, this is true. I had no idea that it had not been done before when I got this started. So it was news to me as well. But really, it was with determination and grit. We knew we had to get the minimum threshold of signatures was 7,460. I'm always going to remember that number for the rest of my life. And there was a limited amount of time in order to get those signatures. So really, it was a team of some paid staff, me, my friends, volunteers, and every day we committed to going out, meeting the people in the 9th District, and offering the petition to them.
You have a tremendous career in the military, and I want to get to that in just a minute, but I want to know why you want to do this in the first place. It's going to be a tough road between now and November.
Right. Yeah, no doubt it's going to be a tough road. But I always like to say the advancement of our country doesn't happen without people willing to do tough things. OK, and I do have a background in the military. I've spent a lot of my 20s and 30s in some of the worst conflict zones in the world. There's no way you do that without having a deep appreciation and gratitude for the ideals of this country, for our democracy, the freedoms. And sadly, so many people feel like we are in decline right now, and that our leaders in Congress are really ineffectual to solving some of our problems and making sure that our country is strong well into the future.
So you entered the military, from what I understand, after 9/11 and what you saw happening globally and to us after we were attacked. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about your career after that point.
Someone has to. Why not me? So I joined ROTC in college, went to the service, and had really a quite interesting career. At 23 years old, I was leading a platoon in Ramadi, Iraq. That's some really quick leadership experience that you get as a young person. At 25, I was breaking barriers for women in special operations as one of the first cohort of women selected to go on night raids with Army Rangers and Navy SEALs in Afghanistan. And I ended my career by serving in Syria, embedding with the Kurdish female fighters fighting against ISIS with our Tier 1 special operations units, and served elsewhere in the Middle East. So I was in for about 11 years, and it was certainly a packed 11 years with a lot of leadership experience, a lot of sobering moments, a lot of geopolitical and intergovernmental experience as well.
Your biggest competitor, as I'm sure you well know, is going to be Richard Hudson, the incumbent for District 9. He said after the Trump verdict in New York, the trial was a sham. Do you agree with that?
What is unfolding right now is exactly what I'm talking about. We're talking about Trump and this trial being a sham. We're talking about it being politically motivated, but we're talking about laws being broken. It is chaos through and through. What we're not talking about is how we're going to be solving our debt, how we're going to be making our country strong and prosperous well into the future. How are we solving affordability issues? It's distractions, it's chaos, and that is the problem. So many Americans, and young Americans in particular, see this for what it is, and they are checking out. They feel like we're an empire in decline led by corrupt men.
Do you think it was a sham, the trial itself?
I think that if it was politically motivated, that's wrong. We can't have that in our country. If Trump broke laws, he needs to be held accountable for them as well. I don't care what elite class you may be from. Okay, there shouldn't be exceptions for who you are, whether you're running for president or not. I trust that the jury looked at all the evidence and made the decisions that they did. We'll see what the appeals process happens and comes from that. But again, it's just a huge distraction, and we're so much better than what we're having to deal with right now.
What are your thoughts on federal legislation in terms of banning abortion outright or making it a shorter period of time than what some states might have right now?
Like I said, I spent a lot of time overseas. Okay, unfortunately, in countries around the world where women were second-class citizens, did not have the rights to make decisions for themselves, And I'm really troubled with the Dobbs decision and the fallout of that. And we've seen where some states have taken that. I do believe that that is such a deeply personal decision for women and their families to make, and I trust them to make that decision. And I believe the only right way that we need to ensure that they have the freedom to make that decision for themselves is codifying something at the federal level. So I'm in full support of that.
While you're out and about talking, when you were getting enough signatures to get on the ballot itself, when you hear from people as you're campaigning and stumping all over this newly drawn district, by the way, what are you hearing most from people who might at one point be your constituents?
People don't like the polarization. They don't like the divisions. They don't like the fighting. I heard a lot about the border being an issue as well. I heard a lot about abortion being an issue, and then a ton about gerrymandering. Okay? People do not appreciate that the maps keep being redrawn for political purposes and undermining the power of their vote.
And if Etchison wins, the question becomes whether she will caucus with House Democrats or Republicans. She's not ready to commit, she tells me, either way. And there is an open invitation to Richard Hudson to sit down with us as well. You can find all of our previous candidate interviews under the Local Matters tab at CBS17.com. Guys?
All right, good work.